NATO ministers are in Brussels to finalise how they plan to boost their spending on defence. Pentagon Chief Pete Hegseth says they are close to a consensus to commit to the 5% spending plan proposed by President Donald Trump. Earlier, NATO Chief Mark Rutte said he expects the group to approve new military purchases to meet that target.
From this, we will decide at the NATO summit to the spending. And we already know we need to spend much, much more if we want to fulfill all these targets. And by the way, by doing that, we will also equalize in terms of spending between Canada and Europe and the United States. There has been a total commitment by the US to NATO, but also this expectation that European and Canadian allies will step up spending, and I'm pretty confident we will get there at the summit.
Washington had insisted on each country laying out credible paths to meet their spending goals. Mr. Hegseth told NATO allies they cannot depend solely on the United States for their own defence.
Every country has to contribute at that level of 5% as a recognition of the nature of the threat. It can't be about the flags that we love. It has to be about the formations that we have. It's that hard power that actually deters. And it can't just be U.S. capabilities. So the United States is proud to be here, to stand with our allies, but our message is going to continue to be clear. It's deterrence and peace through strength, but it can't be reliance.
The meeting comes out of a key summit later this month at The Hague. Mr. Rutte has proposed a step up in defence spending to 3.5% of national GDPs, with a further 1.5% committed to broader security-related spending. But members remain divided over the timeline for a new pledge, with some calling the proposed 2032 deadline unrealistic. And for more, Will Denselow joins us live from Brussels. Will, the last time NATO set a benchmark for defence spending, it was in 2014 for 2%. And as of this year, I think we heard from the NATO chief speaking yesterday, most, if not all, 32 of the member nations are poised to reach or surpass that goal this year, 11 years after setting a 2% benchmark. What are the chances of countries agreeing on and then hitting a 5% goal in just 7 years?
Well, the message from NATO's Secretary-General Mark Rutte is that the world has essentially changed since that 2% benchmark was delivered, and that there is a crucial need for NATO to spend substantially more. And there's also a change in political climate in Washington as well. That was really echoed by the fact that the last time Pete Hegseth, the US Secretary of Defense, was here in Brussels for a NATO defense ministers meeting of this kind, he said Uncle Sam will not become Uncle Sucker, very much a reference to the feeling amongst the Trump administration that that other NATO allies are not paying their fair share on defence, and that they want that quickly to change. This time around, Pete Hegseth striking a far more optimistic tone, saying he's been encouraged by what he's heard, and he is optimistic that there will be consensus from NATO's allies to hit the Trump administration's 5% target come the Hague summit a little later this month. More encouraging rhetoric coming from Mark Rutte on that point, where he said there'll be a considerable extra investment. This meeting today is all about establishing goals as far as the defence investment plan.
Of course, a link perhaps to defence spending is the issue of Ukraine, how much Europe might do in terms of defending Ukraine on its own. NATO chief Mark Rutte yesterday saying Ukraine was invited to that summit in Hague later this month. Do we have any more updates on Ukrainian participation?
Well, we don't know who from Ukraine's delegation will be coming to the Netherlands. Mark Rutte saying that a decision on the programme will be made as soon as possible. When it comes to the issue of Ukraine, much has been made of the fact that Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defence, wasn't at the Ramstein format meeting yesterday here in Brussels, the first time in some 3 years that a US representative hasn't been at such a format. He simply said that it's important for Europe to take the lead. The lack of Pete Hegseth at that meeting was also downplayed by Mark Rutte. When it comes to security guarantees for Ukraine, well, some optimism we've heard from the country's defence minister, Rustem Umerov. He says that 2025 is expected to see more spending from Ukraine's allies than in any previous year since Russia's full-scale invasion. That echoed by Mark Rutte. He says that European allies of Kiev have already pledged over $22 billion when it comes to financial and defence support for the country. He expects plenty more. So that'll be a key thing to look out for at this summit in The Hague in a few weeks' time as well.
Well, thanks. Will Denselow there reporting live as NATO defence ministers meet in Brussels.